Hi Lee, I'm making another video because you still haven't commented, refuted, or correct the points I made in my last video, and you still continue to spread misinformation, especially when it comes to the stimulus. Let's start by breaking down your last video, Joe Biden says Washington is broken. I'll get to why your title of this video is my biggest problem in just a moment. But let me start my rebuttal with your first piece of non-political news. You mentioned the story of a private doctor billing a private insurance company and somehow link it to the government screwing people. You follow by saying Obama is going to pass FDR in spending and claim that Bush doesn't even come close to the amount of deficits that Obama is going to have. First, Obama is passing FDR in spending only because FDR's spending was in the 1930s and inflation hasn't been taken into consideration. Second, FDR spending got us out of the worst depression in the history of this country and shows why we needed spending in a recession. Next, you claim that Bush doesn't even come close to the amount of deficits that Obama is going to have. That is not true at all. The fact of the matter is, when Bush took office on January 19th, 2001, the national debt was $5.7 trillion. And when he left office on January 20th, 2009, it was $10.6 trillion. And that does not even include the over $1 trillion debt he left to Obama for the 2009 fiscal year, which puts Bush's contribution to the debt at nearly $12 trillion. Today, February 23rd, 2010, the national debt is around $12.5 trillion. So how is it that Obama is already going to have more debt than Bush? I find it so hypocritical that for 8 years people like you applauded more funding for 2 wars and tax breaks for the wealthy, which cost trillions of dollars, and now all of a sudden we need to be responsible about the deficit. Economists agree across the board that in a recession it is not the time to be conservative on spending and worry about the debt. Next, you criticize Obama for his chart that claims that the jobs lost has gone down each month, but you fail to show it or even link it to your sidebar, which you are usually good about doing. For the record, I do have it on my sidebar, so check it out to see what he was referring to, guys. You say this chart is ridiculous and makes you feel like we're living in the Soviet Union, and you use an analogy about a bucket of water which loses water inside to make the claim that this chart is useless and that the stimulus hasn't worked. Let me explain why this analogy doesn't work. Let's look at the beginning of where unemployment was versus the number of jobs lost in a given month. When the stimulus was signed February of 2009, unemployment was at 8% and topped out in December at 10%. That's a 2% change, which by your analogy would have left 98% of the water that was originally in the bucket, which means we could have had lost that much more water. Now look at the number of jobs lost and compare that from when the stimulus was signed in February of 2009, when we lost 750,000 jobs, to January of 2010, when we lost 20,000 jobs. That's closing the gap in a year by 98%. We're not talking about saving little splashes of water. We are saving 98% of the water that we were once losing. That is huge. Now, back to reality, where you have made this outrageous claim that the stimulus not only hasn't created any jobs, but, as you said in your video, 824,000 jobs lost. You claim that the stimulus has caused jobs to be lost. This is absolutely false. If conservatives want to be more accurate, then they could attack the number of jobs saved or created that Obama has quoted. He has repeatedly said that 2 million jobs have been saved or created, and I will agree that this assessment is exaggerated by Obama. But let's first look at where he got this number. He acquired this number through the President's Council of Economic Advisors, which estimated that between 1.7 and 2 million jobs were created or saved by this stimulus through the fourth quarter of 2009. Now, this could be a biased number, so let's hear from the Congressional Budget Office. They estimate between 800,000 and 2.4 million jobs were saved or created. But let's go even further. If you don't like the number from any government source, IHS Global Insight, Macroeconomic Advisors, and Moody'sEconomy.com, all in the private sector, have estimated that the stimulus has saved or created over 1 million jobs. If you incorporate the amount of jobs saved or created this year, you get even closer to the 2 million mark quoted by Obama. So you are 100% wrong saying the stimulus isn't helping. But don't take it from me. Listen to the GOP. That's right. Even the Republicans have claimed that the stimulus has created jobs. In the sidebar, I not only have a link from the Washington Times, the conservative newspaper, but I also have a link from a commentator on MSNBC named Rachel Maddow, showing how GOP members have hypocritically criticized the stimulus, but have taken money and claimed at home that it has created jobs. As she has said, it either does create jobs or it doesn't. You can't say one thing in DC, such as the stimulus has failed, it hasn't created any jobs, while going back home and touting all these jobs that it has created. Also, let's do a history lesson. Let's look at the Reagan administration. It took them 2.5 years for them to get the unemployment below 10%, and the recession under Obama is much worse than under Reagan. Also, unemployment is always the last aspect to turn around in a bad economy. The GDP was up in the last quarter, stocks have risen, unemployment is slowing down and should very soon start going down. By all accounts, the stimulus is working. Finally, you criticize Joe Biden saying Washington is broken without even divulging into why he said it. Biden is saying Washington is broken because the Republicans in office are filibustering and behaving in a way never seen before. The GOP is using the filibuster more than it has ever been used, and even more than the last 2 terms of the Senate combined. Republicans don't want to compromise, and they don't want to work with the president, which has been made clear when Republicans sponsored a bill to create a deficit commission, only to vote no on it when Obama signed up for it. The GOP has even put holds on nominees for the sake of looking to score some political points, like when Senator Richard Shelby, Republican of Alabama, held 70 qualified President Obama nominees awaiting Senate confirmation. He recently let most of them go only after being called out by the administration. That is why Washington is broken, because things can't get done, nor do Republicans want things to get done, because they want to score political points. So again, Lee, stop spreading misinformation. It's one thing to be conservative, it's another thing to be a liar. As Joe Biden puts it, you're entitled to your own opinion, you're not entitled to your own facts. Again, I would love for you to comment, refute, apologize, or correct anything I said. And as always, YouTube will be watching.